Thank you, everyone. I'm Clint Morris, chair of the Fayette County Democratic Party, and we're here with Daniel Kemph, who is a candidate for our party's nomination for the 6th Congressional District seat here in Central Kentucky and in Lexington. Thank you for coming, Daniel. We're excited to give voters the opportunity to hear a little bit from our candidates during this particular time of social distancing, and it makes campaigning and some things a little awkward. So we appreciate you giving some time to us today. So just so you know, so what we'll do is we'll start out with some personal questions because voters like to get a sense of who our candidates are, and they maybe haven't had the opportunity this time around to meet folks because we're not having events, we're not doing those sorts of things. So I'm going to do two sort of personal questions, and then we will jump right into the policy questions, and then we'll close it with you kind of letting us know whatever it is that you think we should know, and then we'll be done. So
okay, that sounds great.
Great. So the first question is, during this time of quarantine, is there any particular favorite show or TV series that you've been streaming or a book that you've been reading that you'd like to recommend to voters out there?
Well, thank you, Clint. And a big thank you to the Fayette County Democratic Party for doing this so voters can be better informed. It's an excellent service you're offering. I haven't been watching a lot of TV lately. I've been really busy working hard on the campaign. But when I do have a chance to unwind, and I like to take in more of the lighter stuff, so I like Young Frankenstein or an episode or two of Archer. I do like the NASCAR documentary, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. I think Ron Burgundy's depiction of Joey Logano is sublime. But more seriously, though, last weekend, I just finished reading Jeff Goodall's book, The Water Will Come. It's about the inevitability of the rising seas. And it was just really fascinating, really interesting about how our policy positions clash up against the facts and nature.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Also, the other question we had was, during this time of social distancing, a lot of us have some time for some introspection, maybe some more time than we usually would have. What's one thing you've learned about yourself during this time of quarantine?
Well, like I said, I've been real busy with the phone glued to my ear working on the campaign. But in those quieter moments, I'm feeling much more in touch and more at ease with the world around me. I'm encouraged by others and how there seems to be more of a conscious effort to embrace art and the world around us. But Kentucky has always been kind of a special place in that regard, and that people have always been more inherently aware of their surroundings. It's kind of a default position around here. But now it just seems that we're all kind of collectively falling into the arms of an old friend for a warm hug. And that's really kind of refreshing.
Thanks. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to jump into the policy questions now, and we have 7 of them. And we asked Democrats over the last couple of weeks to share with us the questions that they wanted to hear from the candidates for the various races. And so these are 7 questions that folks had for our congressional nominee race. And so I'll jump in with the first one, and that is COVID-19 has changed and will continue to change several aspects of our everyday lives, exposing in many ways the great income inequality in our country, in our state. Moving forward, what should leaders do to address this issue of income inequality?
Well, we've spent the last 40 years granting corporations rights that supersede actual human rights. And the only way people can claw back their economic rights is to collectively bargain for wide-reaching gains. Sure, we can and should raise the minimum wage. That's something we can do immediately. But that's only a Band-Aid for a greater ill. Workers need to follow the lead of like the National Education Association or the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the American Association of Nurses, or even the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Follow their example and organize for their own benefit and collectively demand improved working conditions and a prevailing wage scale that benefits us all. Congress needs to act to strengthen workers' ability to organize and negotiate. The PRO Act passed in the House last January is an excellent first step, but we can go further in weakening the so-called right-to-work laws. I will strongly support and co-sponsor protecting the Davis-Bacon Act to make sure workers are paid prevailing wages.
Great, thank you. Another thing that is COVID related. So small businesses across Kentucky are hurting right now. Many have applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, Others have yet to access those funds. We are particularly concerned about minority-owned small businesses. What should be done to ensure that people of color are not shut out of programs like the PPP?
It's estimated that up to 90% of minority and women-owned small businesses could go under as the result of Republican leadership's handling of the pandemic. The best way we can assure that minorities who own small businesses remain a part of a vibrant community is to have community banks and credit unions be the ones who distribute the funds like PPP. We also need to have designations in the relief funds to better define what a small business is, such as a business less than 50 employees and not a franchisee. These small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities. We need to do more to encourage their growth, not just during times of catastrophe, but continually. Federal loan programs that partner with community leaders and community lenders whose people live and work in the same community are the programs that are best administered.
Okay, thank you. Also, a critical weakness in our system of employer-based healthcare has become painfully obvious. What do you believe is the best way to remedy this problem before the next crisis comes around?
Well, this isn't just crisis related. This is an ongoing process, an ongoing problem. The crisis has only exacerbated the problem. And what we need to do is get these large corporations out of the business of healthcare. But to get rid of this healthcare injustice, we have to do it responsibly and orderly. A company that specializes in making shoes and has 300,000 employees has too much say in how healthcare is distributed. They specialize in shoes, not healthcare. And they don't have any interest in a robust access to healthcare. To get there, we need a Medicare for all, a market-based solution. And this is what I've been proposing, is a Medicare opt-in and opt-out program, so that people who want to participate in this, they're not forced to do so, but they can take what they've been paying now in their premiums and opt into Medicare and give it a try for a year. And if they're not satisfied, then they can also opt out. And this way, it inherently builds in at least 3 years of stability in the premiums that people are paying. But it also gives them a chance to try out Medicare, and so it's not forced on them. And this is a market-based solution that gives us a much more dynamic coverage in our healthcare.
Great. The next question is about what happens after November, and we had several people that were interested in the answer to this. So imagine an ideal outcome, and that ideal outcome is Democrats retain the House, Democrats can take control of the Senate, and we win the White House. If that is the case, what is your legislative priority day one?
Well, I like that scenario, but the road to taking back the Senate starts right here in Kentucky by beating Mitch McConnell. I cannot stress enough how important Kentucky is to America as a whole. We really need to do our work and turn out and beat Mitch McConnell. But my legislative priorities on day one would be Medicare for all, expanding ACA protections like pre-existing conditions. We need to have a dynamic jobs program that immediately puts infrastructure projects to work right now. And then have future jobs. I want to propose that we make broadband internet a household utility so that all households have access to 21st century technology so that they can participate in a 21st century economy. The COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic, has really shown the light on the needs of the have and have-nots. We're really already creating a huge disparity among the people, and this isn't good. We really need to have a much more dynamic process and a much more dynamic access to a market. And the broadband internet available to every household is what matters. And lastly is education. We have to fully fund public education and in tax dollars being sent to these private institutions. And we have to fully fund our promise of pensions to teachers who have spent a lifetime educating our children. That we're willing to set that aside is an embarrassment to us. I would encourage people to go to www.kentucky Kemph2020.com to learn more about the issues that I care about and take a peek at our excellent campaign video that we've put together.
Great. So let's look at what some people are saying is a more likely scenario. Let's take the White House out of it, but look at the two legislative bodies. The Democrats retain the House, Republicans retain the Senate. What would you do to help break up the gridlock?
Well, it's no secret Washington is broken. We're going to have to find common ground locally, and I'll be the leader to make that happen. I will bring together community leaders from both sides of the aisle, and we'll discuss the solutions and we'll present a way forward. We are going to have to be the light locally to shine so that we can bring that to Washington, because it's simply not working in Washington. Washington is playing a zero-sum game where only one side can win, and that's not the reality of it on the ground. There's many issues that we agree on: a market-based Medicare for all and ACA protections, raising the minimum wage, finding ways to slash the debt and deficit, and developing new markets for a revamped 21st century economy. There's many ways that we can work together. It's just simply a matter of rolling up our sleeves, getting together, and doing the work.
Talking about doing the work, it means bringing people together. How will you work as both our nominee and then as our congressperson to engage young voters in the conversations that are important to them, but also important to the future of our Commonwealth and our nation?
Well, I'm going to bring students and young people together to work on the issues that matter most to them. It's simply a matter of getting together and asking the question and then listening. It's not dictating, it's involving them in the conversation. I welcome all young people to get involved in and work on my campaign. There's much I've learned about software development projects, but one of the most valuable that is having a process where contributions or ideas have a way of being considered regardless of source. So whether someone has 20 years of experience or none at all, that idea is honestly considered on its merits. And what I can offer to young people who want to be more involved is that they come onto the campaign and they'll have a process and support for them to operate and make a contribution regardless of what their past is or what their skill set is. They can make that contribution and not be judged based on the source.
Good. So the last question we have, and then we'll open it up to you to talk about things that you want to talk about. If elected, what will you do to help improve civic competency amongst Kentuckians?
Well, it's kind of a loaded question. The Kentuckians I know are already involved civically. If you're watching this video now and considering what I'm offering, you're doing your part. Though, you could certainly make a donation. That wouldn't hurt either. What I can do is engage myself. We already have a congressman who refuses to have town halls or refuses to spend time with people in the district, and it's created an environment in which Kentuckians feel disconnected from those around us. It's my solemn promise to constantly be available and engage every Kentuckian that wants to be. We can elevate ourselves. It only takes courage and hard work to be an example that we can be proud of. We look around and we can see Governor Beshear and how he's handling this pandemic. He's not looking for a Republican solution. He's not looking for a Democratic solution. He's looking for a solution that best protects Kentuckians. He puts Kentuckians' lives and Kentuckian economy ahead of everybody else. And it's a fine example of what leadership means. And that's the kind of leadership that I'll bring to the office.
So we have a few minutes left. So take a few moments to hit on the things that you think voters should know about your candidacy.
Well, please go to www.kemph2020.com and check out my issues page. You can check out my biography pages and get to know me a little better. You can follow the campaign by signing up for our newsletter and stay apprised of upcoming events. And of course, you can donate. I'll dedicate myself to helping families of the bluegrass. I know the struggles of hardworking Kentuckians. They're my neighbors. The people deserve a representative who is focused on helping our people get ahead. I'll get the job done for the bluegrass.
Well, Daniel, thank you for spending time with us and for coming here and helping us get the message out to voters about their options on June 23rd. Um, thank you so much, and
Thank you, Clint.
I would say we would see you around the campaign trail, but I don't know.
Oh Lord, I would certainly hope. That's my favorite part. That's the relief from working the phones, is going out and meeting the voters and shaking folks' hands. That's sincerely my favorite part, putting together a good speech and really engaging people, listening to what, they think is best for the way for Kentucky to go forward. And I really, I really miss that. This is really a challenge.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you, Clint. You take care.
Thanks. Bye.